At a train station in the city, there lived a beggar who survived by asking for money from passing passengers. Every day, he stood on the platform, extending his hand and pleading for help from those boarding the trains. His life passed by in poverty, dependent on the kindness of others. One day, while begging as usual, he noticed a tall, well-dressed man in a suit stepping off the train. The beggar thought to himself that this man must be wealthy and would likely give him more money than usual. He immediately approached the man and asked for money. However, instead of giving him money, the wealthy man looked at him and said, "You're always asking for things. But have you ever given anything in return?" The beggar was surprised and replied, "I'm just a beggar. How could I possibly give anything to anyone?" The wealthy man smiled and said, "If you can't give anything, then you have no right to receive. I am a businessman, and I believe everything is based on exchange. If you want to receive something, you must first give." After saying this, the man boarded the train and left, leaving the beggar with new thoughts. The wealthy man's words made him reflect on his life. He realized that perhaps the reason he didn't receive much money was because he had never given anything in return. From that moment, he decided to change his way of life. After the encounter with the wealthy man, the beggar began to deeply contemplate what he had heard. He realized that only asking without giving had kept his life stagnant. He asked himself, "What can I possibly give when I'm just a poor beggar?" This question haunted him for days, but he still couldn't find an answer. One afternoon, while sitting near the station, his gaze fell on some wildflowers growing nearby. The small, colorful flowers sparked an idea in his mind. He thought, "Why don't I pick these flowers and give them to those who give me money?" The idea excited him, and he immediately put it into action. He picked a bunch of flowers and brought them onto the train. Whenever someone gave him money, he would give them a flower in return. The recipients were delighted and happy, smiling and thanking him. This made him feel more valuable, no longer just an anonymous beggar. Gradually, he noticed that he was receiving more money than before. People seemed more willing to help him when they received a small gift in return. However, when the flowers ran out, he received nothing. This made him understand the true importance of giving. From then on, he began picking flowers every day and continued giving them to those who helped him. His life gradually changed, and he started to believe that he could achieve much more. After implementing the idea of giving flowers to those who helped him, the beggar noticed his life beginning to transform. He was no longer just an anonymous beggar but had become a small flower seller at the station. Every day, he picked wildflowers growing around the station and gave them to kind-hearted passengers. The small but colorful flowers brought joy to both the givers and the receivers. One day, while selling flowers on the train, he unexpectedly encountered the wealthy man who had inspired his change. Overjoyed, he approached the man and said, "Today, I have flowers to give you. Please accept them as a token of gratitude for what you taught me." The wealthy man smiled, accepted the flowers, and said, "Now you've become a true businessman." Those words filled the beggar with pride and happiness. From that point, he began to think bigger. He realized he wasn't just a small flower seller but could become a true merchant. He used the money he earned from selling flowers to buy more beautiful flowers from flower shops in the city. Gradually, he expanded his business from selling flowers on the train to supplying flowers for events and shops in the city. After 6 months, the former beggar had become a successful businessman. He wore a sleek suit, polished shoes, and walked confidently on his path. One day, he coincidentally met the wealthy man again at the station. This time, he proactively shook the man's hand and said, "Do you recognize me? I am the beggar from before." The wealthy man was surprised but then smiled and nodded. The former beggar recounted his journey, from a poor beggar to a successful flower merchant. The beggar's story is proof of the power of changing one's mindset. He learned the lesson of exchange and giving, which completely transformed his life. The story of the beggar becoming a successful merchant is not only touching but also offers profound life lessons. First, it emphasizes the importance of changing one's mindset. The beggar once thought of himself as useless, with nothing to give, but when he changed his thinking and started giving small flowers, his life completely transformed. The second lesson is about the law of giving and receiving. The wealthy man taught him that if you want to receive something, you must first give. This is a natural law that many successful people in the world have applied. When you are willing to share and give value, you will receive even more in return. Finally, the story affirms that success stems from believing in oneself. The beggar overcame his own prejudices, stopped seeing himself as a beggar, and began viewing himself as a merchant. That confidence and determination helped him achieve great things. In summary, this story teaches us that by changing our thinking, believing in our own value, and being willing to give, we can turn the seemingly impossible into reality. Success is not something distant, it lies within the mindset and actions of each individual.